Comrades, look, I've got a confession. I'm a Daily Mail reader. And when I read the Daily Mail, they said I'd be here on my own. We've proved them wrong. And we always will, and we always do. I want to thank some people who organised today. I want to thank one of the best socialists I've met in my life, Ian Lavery MP, who's put so much work into this. I want to thank Carol Linforth and the Labour Party's organisation team, the events team, for all that they've done. I want to thank Jeremy Corbyn's Leader's Office, and in particular Marsha Thompson, who put so much work in today. Today there's been a number of anniversaries, and one of them is a sad anniversary. A year ago today, Jo Cox was murdered by a fascist. We will always remember Jo for her contribution to society. But you know, we saw only a couple of weeks ago in this supposed Tommy Robertson march. The fascists are on the march again. Let's make this absolutely clear. The Labour Party is an anti-fascist force within society. We will not stand aside while the right and the fascists organise to separate and divide our community. We will stand in solidarity, as always, against the fascists. This week was another sad anniversary. This morning I went on the march for Grenfell Tower. And as on the silent march last week and every month, we met the families. And we met those heroes, the courageous heroes of the FBU, who ran into that fire to save lives. And the immense anger that we feel that in the richest borough, in the fifth richest country of the world, they were more interested, the politicians locally, in saving money than saving lives. So I said this morning, on behalf of the Labour Party, to the Grenfell residents, some of whom haven't even been housed yet, that we will stand with them until they gain truth and justice from this inquiry. But I also said this. We will not tolerate in our capital city 5,000 people sleeping rough. We will not tolerate in our capital city the homelessness crisis, the overcrowding crisis, the housing crisis that we now have. And when we go into government, we will build those million homes, 500,000 council homes again. And you know, I'm glad the magic numbers were playing here today. Because when we put the numbers together, it will be magical what we can do with society. We will transform it. Because I'll find the magic money tree, and it will be the rich and the corporations paying their taxes again. But it's also the anniversary of what you did 12 months ago, all of you. Can you remember they wrote us off. They were 24 points ahead in the polls, the Tories. They were going to wipe us out. And on that night, we demonstrated what a mass movement can do with a manifesto that people could believe in. A manifesto, yes, that will ensure we fund our NHS, that we end the privatisation, that we build the homes, we restore trade union rights, and we become a force for peace in the world once again. We have a dream of transforming our society, of creating a society which is so much radically fairer, radically more democratic, radically more equal. Yes, it's a prosperous economy that we'll build, that's economically and environmentally sustainable. But the difference between us and them is that prosperity will be shared by everybody. And there's a word. And there's a word for that. There's a word for that. It's socialism that we aspire to. I'm going to introduce shortly someone who played his own minor role in this whole exercise. But before that, we're just going to watch a video.
Here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come.
I had a dream we would have a socialist in number 10, and it will be this socialist, Jeremy Corbyn.
Friends, to love, to be loved, to never forget your own insignificance, to never get used to the unspeakable violence and the vulgar disparity of life around you, to seek joy in the saddest places, to pursue beauty to its lair, to never simplify what is complicated or complicate what is simple, to respect strength, never power, above all, to watch, to try and understand, to never look away and never, never to forget. Wise words from the great writer Arundhati Roy, who's an inspiration to so many of us. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you for the massive contribution you're all making to this event. And can I wish you all a wonderful day here at Labour Live. And to those who are celebrating Eid Mubarak, happy Eid Mubarak to all of you. Because this is the first time a political party has ever organised something like this, bringing together music, poetry, creativity, bringing together the inspiration that is there in all of us to learn from each other and be strengthened by that learning from each other. Ours is a politics of hope. Ours is a politics of determination. Ours is a politics of inclusion. People don't lead their life in boxes. They lead their lives in many different and diverse ways. And what we're about is inspiring a movement of people that will recognise so much could be so much better in this country by bringing people together, not passing by on the other side. I don't want to live in a society that walks by on the other side and ignores the rough sleeper and those destined to a life of misery and early death on the cold streets of this country. And I tell you what, you go and talk to somebody who is sleeping rough at night. Ask them about their life. Ask them what happened to them in their life. Ask them what they want in their life. And you know what? They want to make that contribution. They've, yes, had problems and had hardship and had difficulties, but they want to make that contribution. There is wisdom there in those who are rough sleeping, just as much as there's wisdom in universities and colleges all around. And a society that recognises the stress that so many of our young people go through, the stress of an over-competitive education system, the stress of league tables, the stress of continually being told they're on the verge of being a failure. Well, in my book, nobody is a failure. We support everybody. Because the genius that is there amongst people must be unleashed, and that creativity must be made there for the benefit of all of us. I don't want to live in a society that creates the most disgraceful levels of inequality between the richest and the poorest. I don't want to live in a society that is building luxury houses and flats to keep them empty, that somebody can make a profit out of them while there are homeless people sleeping on the streets outside. We need and can do things very, very differently if we want to. And that is what brings us together. The Labour Party now has 550,000 members, the biggest it's been in my lifetime. We are a proud and determined party, and now the sun is coming out on this wonderful event of Labour Live. Coming out because we are determined to change and transform our society. John mentioned the anniversary this week of Grenfell Tower and that terrible fire that took place there. Wholly avoidable, wholly preventable in the richest borough in Britain, with the poorest people in the richest borough in Britain. And a year on, they still haven't paid to remove the dangerous cladding from other tower blocks around the country. They still haven't fitted the sprinklers that are there. I tell you what, we are absolutely determined that we will go into government to build those council houses that are needed. To regulate that private rented market, and to say to young people, yes, You need and deserve a decent place to live. And yes, you will get a decent place to live because we will mobilise the resources to make sure you do. Because the housing crisis, yes, of course, affects the rough sleeper, but it also affects the child growing up, sharing a bedroom with 2 or 3 siblings, unable to study, to do their homework, to live any kind of personal life. And because of the insecurities of their housing, may well move after 6 months and therefore have to move school. Having somewhere to call home is something very, very important. Increasingly, there are many who do not. And so it will be a Labour government that will give that complete priority to ensuring we deal with the housing crisis across the whole of this country. We've done it before, we will do it again. You cannot leave it to free markets and a Tory government. They will not do it. This year is the 70th anniversary of the greatest achievement of the Labour Party, the founding of our National Health Service. That socialist principle that healthcare is provided free at the point of need for everybody, irrespective of their means, their money, their wealth, or anything else. But a health service that is a vehicle for privatisation, a vehicle for contracting and profits to be made out of the NHS is not acceptable, is not what Nye Bevan envisaged, is not what we will allow as a Labour government. But we will also ensure that it's a health service that recognises the grotesque inequalities in this country. In one part of this borough of Haringey, there's a very good life expectancy. Not far over that way in Tottenham, it's a much lower life expectancy. You could say the same in Birmingham, the same in Newcastle, the same in Manchester, the same in Glasgow. We need to improve our health service and the health of our communities through cleaner air, through better housing, through less stress in society, which leads us to the mental health crisis we're in. And that mental health crisis is a crisis, partly medical, of course, but it's also brought about by the stress in society. The stress of not knowing if your job will be there next week, not knowing if you can afford to eat properly this week, not knowing if you've got a voucher for a food bank. And a quarter of our population at some point in their life will have some kind of mental health crisis. Sadly, too many young people, particularly young men, take their own lives in desperation and in isolation. So we invest in mental health, of course, but we also change the way we live and the way we run our society. Because it is about how we look after and care for each other. Again, leaving it to markets won't do it, won't cut it. I'm proud that we have many people doing very well and achieving a great deal in our education service. I'm proud of the work and the stress that teachers suffer to achieve what they do in our education system. But I want to see it changed. I want to see it changed a lot. I want to see every 2-year-old getting the chance to go to preschool, nursery facilities free for 30 hours a week up to the age of 4. I want to see every nursery and primary school child getting a free school meal every day. Hungry children don't learn. But I also want to ensure that those going through school are able to develop themselves, and we appreciate the different skill levels and different ideas we've all got. But above all, not have a system that stifles the imagination and creativity out of our children. And so We will have an arts fund that will ensure every child in every school can learn a musical instrument and develop their creativity and their artistic endeavour. And the decision we made in the general election campaign was that we were prepared and will raise corporation tax up to 26 pence in the pound in order to pay for free college and university education for all. And the legacy of the next Labour government will be a national education service that takes the commodity out of education and puts the right to have an education into the hands of the entire community. Because we value everybody, that means we as a community have to invest in everybody. And it also means we remove this false division between those that get a skill, a vocational skill, and those that get an academic qualification. You need engineers, you need lawyers, you need electricians, you need plumbers, you need carpenters, and they should all be equally recognised for the value they make to our society. And that skilled education should be available as much to girls as it is to boys who can achieve everything that they can in society. But none of this will be provided if we rely on an economy and a society that's ruled by the free market. You get the free market in education, you get what we all lose as a society. You invest as a society, we all benefit from it. It's not unusual in many countries in the world. A Labour government will establish a national education service to bring schools into the accountability of local education, to bring universities to everybody if they want to go there, and above all, to also properly fund adult education and take the fees out of adult education so that throughout life we can all learn and we all benefit from that. But it's also, as John explained, about how we run an economy. Do we run an economy where the likes of Carillion, with apparently no assets and massive debts, continue to get government contracts? Do we force health and local government to contract out and privatise services? Do we allow our railways to be run by the private sector, our water industry, our mail service? Or do we say that under Labour, mail, rail and water will come back where they belong, into the public ownership, and that it will be democratic and it will be well run, and that we will harness the powers of investment open to government to establish a national investment bank for every part of the UK, and that national investment bank will invest in all parts of the country. Those that lost their jobs in the skilled industries that were destroyed by Margaret Thatcher and her government on that altar of free market have been replaced by the likes of Sport Direct, 0 hours contract, insecure work. What we will do is invest in long-term, secure, high-quality, decent employment with rights at work from day one of entering the workforce. Thanks for the gift. I'm not sure what it is. But it's also about winning people over to win that election. We unite people to understand the kind of future that we want for this country. That high-skilled, high technology, good quality jobs that are there for the future. That society that genuinely cares for all. And it's also about our relationships with the rest of the world, to ensure that we do have tariff-free trade with Europe and a customs union with the European Union to protect those jobs in Europe and here. But it's also about the huge issues that every single one of us faces, the environmental crisis that is facing this planet. Donald Trump might want to walk away from the Paris Climate Change Agreement. We do not. We support it, we welcome it, we would work with it. And yesterday, I was at the memorial service for the wonderful Stephen Hawking. And at the end of it, some of his words were read out in his own staccato voice that was given to him by a machine, a man who lived to the age of 75 despite motor neuron disease and taught us all so much and gave us such a great legacy. And what his last words were, yes, all the great scientific advances he had made, but he said, use science, use technology to understand each other and to protect our planet and protect our natural world and our environment. Use technology to support environmental sustainability. Because if we don't do that, then we all have problems in the future. Again, if you leave it to the market, you pollute the air, you pollute the river, you pollute the sea, you destroy the natural ecosystem, and we end up wheezing our way through polluted cities and watching our rivers be polluted and our natural world disappear around us, and we all suffer as a result of it. I want to lead a government that improves the living standards of the poorest in our society and protects our natural world, and on the global stage has a very different role. We want to be a government that says our primary concern around the world is human rights, equality, peace and justice. And that we do not see refugees as a threat. We see refugees as people who have suffered from wars that in some cases have been created by the West. You look to the causes of war in order to prevent war in the future. But we do that by uniting amongst ourselves. Those that would seek to divide us, those racists that would seek to divide us, need to think about this for a moment. You can blame minority A for the cause of your problems. You then move on to minority B, and you move on and on after that. At the end of that, you haven't built a school, built a house, trained a nurse. You haven't achieved any improvement in your society. All you've done is divided people with hate, with distaste, with disdain, and with nastiness. On St. George's Day, 1977, the National Front, the fascists of their day, tried to march up Wood Green High Road to go on and hold a rally somewhere else. Some people said, let them march. They're only fascists, they're only Nazis, they'll go away. Some of us, all those years ago, said, no, we are not prepared to allow our multicultural society to be divided by these people. We will stand as a community in unity against them. The far-right rise in Central Europe and other parts of the world has to be challenged. Challenged by recognizing we are different, we are diverse, we have different backgrounds, we come from different countries, we have different faiths, but our differences bring us together and make us stronger. We learn from each other, we learn from each other's achievements, we mourn each other's defeats and problems. But together we're a very strong society. Never, ever allow any racist to divide us. We will never tolerate it. We will never allow it. Because we want to live in a world, where there is decency and above all, there is hope. I'm inspired by those that founded our movement, those people in desperate and dark times formed trade unions, formed political parties, stood up for the rights of others, and said that inequality is wrong. It is not the natural order of things for the rich to live in their splendid seclusion while the rest live in poverty. It is about sharing. It is about an economy that shares. It is about a society that shares. And if we learn from that history, we know just how strong we are. We went through an election campaign a year ago when we were written off at the beginning, and at the end we had the biggest swing to Labour since 1945. My only sadness is that we didn't quite win that election. But I look in the House of Commons across the aisle at a party of the rich, by the rich and for the rich, funded by the rich. And I see a party over there that's divided, that's incapable of negotiating and incapable of governing. I see a party that offers nothing to solve to bring about the necessary solutions to people's problems in our society. And I simply say to them this: you crept back into office a year ago. You started bugging money around in order to stay in office. For goodness sake, give up, move on, move over, and let the people take over. And we learn from those that give us lessons, sometimes in the greatest and most difficult days of adversity. Somebody who's inspired me in my life has been the great Chilean musician Victor Jara. And after the military coup took place in Chile in 1973, he was taken to the stadium in Santiago with his guitar, which he'd done so much to inspire people. And the military broke his hands to stop him playing his guitar. He wrote this poem in that stadium. I don't sing for the love of singing or because I have a good voice. I sing because my guitar has both feeling and reason. It has a heart of earth and the wings of a dove. It is like holy water, blessing joy and grief. My song has found a purpose, as Violetta would say, hard-working guitar with a smell of spring. My guitar is not for the rich. No, nothing like that. My song is of a ladder we're building to reach the stars. For a song has meaning when it beats in the veins of someone who will die singing, truthfully, singing their songs. In the memory of Victor Jara, in the memory of so many more, let's resolve. Unite as a movement, unite as a party, unite to take on inequality, and unite to bring on an election, and unite for a Labour government. Thank you very much, Wood Green. Can you put your hands together to thank everyone, and I mean everyone, who worked so hard to put Labour Live together? They've done an incredible job. Thank you. Thank you to all of them. Thank you to all of you. And now, somebody who probably didn't realise at the time turned the election campaign in a very interesting way. I went to Tranmere Rovers ground. I went to Wirral Live, and who gave me the space on the stage. Please welcome Reverend and the Makers.
Let me see who's here. I'm going to send this You're gonna dance, please. This side. People in the front, I want to see you bounce with me. Are you ready? Yeah, let's go. We'd like to play you some ska music. We want to see your knees up. You gotta move. What? Yeah, I said knees up. Do it again. Do it again. Why not have another one ready when tomorrow comes? Although you act a fool, I know you want a fella who'd treat you cool to show to all the other mothers at the school. But don't know what you say you are, someone would do anything. Oh, for the love of Miss Brown, like this. Oh, for the love of Miss Brown. It's easy. Oh, for the love of Miss Brown. Now sing it. Oh, for the love of Miss Brown. Can't hear ya. Oh, for the love of Miss Brown. Knees up, yeah. For overstaying my invite, creeping out the back door when it's nearly light. Because so that when you're blinded you'll regret it when tomorrow comes. Believe me, always a man to blame. I bet you start a fire counting your old flames. Never met a good one, 'cause we're all the same. But some of us are different. I know someone who'd do anything for Miss Brown, Labour. Oh, for the love of Miss Brown. Sing it. Oh, for the